Ren, you sound beautiful. Your voice was very soulful just now.
It was it.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
It was like 90s R&B.
Check, check, check. Checkity, check,
Like
check. Checkity, check, check. Brown cow went over the moon. Check,
like
check.
like a Luther Vandross. A chair is still a chair, even when there's no one sitting there. Was that sultry? Did that feel
That
sultry?
was I would if I would have an a cappella group,
Hmm.
I'd want you to be a part of it.
But here's the question: Did
Yeah,
your
this
butthole
is
pucker
probably
at
going to be a
all?
really important question. Did my what?
Did your butthole pucker at all?
That's something I wanted to talk to you about. It's something that's been happening a little bit here and there. Is what did you say? Buttonhole powering?
Butthole. Did
Butthole,
your
butthole,
butt?
oh, butthole, oh, butthole.
Yeah,
No,
did your
that didn't
butthole
happen.
pucker at all?
Okay,
Oh, okay,
so I
all right.
want to talk.
Because
So
I
I
was
want to talk
concerned
about.
that you wanted to tell me. You talked
Can
to
we
me
talk
about
about?
it.
Can we talk about Elon Musk? I got some funny shit I want to talk about really quick before we start
Please
this.
do.
So,
Please
have you
do.
been following what's been going on with Twitter? Because
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's the best entertainment in years,
It's
and
free.
it is so funny. So, first of all, okay, first of all, um,
Let it
so
out, John.
so Twitter,
It's okay.
so Elon Musk walks into the Twitter headquarters. You know, all this stuff with like he was going to buy it, then he wasn't going to buy it, then he was going to buy it, then he wasn't going to buy it.
Right.
So he walks into the Twitter headquarters, and he's carrying a sink, and so for no other reason, it's just
What?
a sink. It's a sink, and he tweets, "Let that sink in." So that's how this started. Okay, gets way better from here. Imagine if you were the poor ass assistant who had to buy that sink so that Musk could make this terrible joke. Okay,
Oh my.
number two, he's basically went in there and is just like cleaning house. Like he's just like fixing
Right.
stuff and like letting go a whole bunch of people and changing everything like really, really quick. And so of course the media is jumping on this because there's all these page views. So this dude was at the gym. Okay. And Amber is not on the show today, but Amber's listening. So Amber, for post production, we gotta find a picture of this guy. So this dude was at the gym, and it just so turns out that his gym is right around the corner from the Twitter offices. He's in San Francisco. He's a Silicon Valley guy, whatever, right?
Okay.
I don't know if he's a Silicon Valley guy. He's in San Francisco, whatever. He goes to the gym around the Twitter offices. Like I live in Toronto, and like the Shopify offices are everywhere. You know, it's just
Right.
like it's whatever. It's just like a building that has like a Twitter logo on it. But there's media trucks outside. And so this guy is in his gym clothes and he texts his buddy and he's like, "Yo, do you have a box? I'm going to play a prank on these media people right now." And so he walks out in his gym clothes in front of the Twitter offices with a box as if he just got fired. And in the box was one item, which was Michelle Obama's book. The media goes crazy over this thing. Okay, the
What?
media goes buck wild. And this guy says that his name. So everybody is like sharing this picture like crazy. This guy, it's like this guy is just some dude who just wanted to mess with the media. He walks out with this box. People who work in Silicon Valley don't like brown box their desk up if they
Right,
got
right.
fired. They carry their laptop out the door and they walk away. In his box is one book, which is Michelle Obama's book. The media was so rabid for any kind of a story. This guy's picture is plastered across the world with like Twitter is laying off everybody. They're like asking him opinions on the layoffs and everything like that.
God.
That's number two. Then Musk says, so you know how there's like the blue like verification check marks, right?
Yes.
And so Musk said that he's gonna on Twitter, instead of it, there's gonna be like basically like a secondary thing for journalists, like a tag, but the verification check mark is actually gonna be a paid subscription. At first he said $20. And so he said, for $20, you can get a verification badge, which basically verifies your identity. This is a way to keep down bots. This is a way to fund Twitter. And so it's
Right.
not as overly reliant on ads. And also, by the way, if you have that, you'll get preferential, spread in the algorithm and on replies and stuff like that. Basically what the verification badge already does. So the world has a conniption over this, right? And Musk starts going after all of the celebrities who are going nuts. Like he starts Stephen King is the author Stephen King says,
Yes.
I'm not paying $20. So Musk negotiates with them. He's like, okay, fine. How about $8? Like the problem for Stephen King is $20 versus $8.
He priced Stephen King out.
So Musk's now account, his official title is Twitter Complaint Hotline Officer. His picture is a kid on a phone, and his location is hell. He posts a picture of this crudely drawn smiley face, staring at this sign that says 30 minutes, $8, and it's a Starbucks frothy drink. And then right underneath it is this other super angry crying face with the sign that says 30 days, $8, and it is the verification logo.
Oh my gosh.
Then this story just keeps getting better and better and better. Oh my God, his story just keeps getting better. So then what's her name?
I don't know.
AOC, the Alexandra.
Oh, Alexandria Ortega Cortez or Ociando. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, look,
Senate person.
Right. So first off, I have no opinion. I'm Canadian. I don't know who these people really are. I just come here for the entertainment. And so Cortez tweets. Oh, where is it? Oh, I should have brought this up. She tweets. So she tweets, LMAO, laughing my ass off at a billionaire earnestly trying to sell people on the idea that free speech is actually an $8 per month subscription plan. So Musk responds.
Of course he does. He's got time.
He's been going. Oh, his responses have been incredible to all of these people. And so his response is, your feedback is appreciated, comma. Now pay $8. He then
he bought it just to troll it.
Dude, he bought it just to troll people.
Just to troll it.
Every single person, this, I don't know, this person, Frida Gites, I don't know who that is, but somebody with a verification thing. That's why it's so sad watching you play with it like it's a toy and you're a child. And Musk just responds back, $8. And the whole thing is just so funny because it's just in what world do we live in that there's this billionaire who bought Twitter, like a very influential media platform, and is just completely screwing around with everybody, and probably is right in what he's doing. I mean, even if he's not, it's just funny how he's doing. But the other part of it is all of these people are going to pay $8 to Elon Musk, every single one of them, because they have no choice to, and he knows that.
Right.
And so he's just sitting there laughing. You can just tell every time he gets one of these tweets, he's just chuckling. He's like, that will be $8 from you and $8 from you.
He's unaffected.
It is the best entertainment right now in the world. So the dude, the dude who, what is it? So the dude who impersonated a Twitter employee carrying the box outside of the Twitter headquarters said that his name was Rahul Ligma. So I didn't quite get that at the beginning until I looked into this because I've been spending a lot of time on this because it's very entertaining.
Yeah, obviously you have, Jonathan.
Ligma is actually like an internet joke for lick my nuts. It's just there's just so many layers to what's going on here.
I've learned so much so early in this podcast today.
Oh my
This is a
god.
bounty of information,
Oh my
none of
god.
which I wanted to know, by the way.
It's just perfect, man.
But isn't it
It's so funny. Well, it shows you what somebody should do when they go into like a broken business. They need to just it's just irrelevant like what users say. I mean, we joke with Quick Coach with the software that I built. I'm like the product lead. I'm the de facto product lead. My
right?
job is effectively telling people no. Because I mean the requests for features is ridiculous. Is often
Right.
ridiculous. It's like your situation is unbelievably unique to you, and you have something that I call a hangover habit, which basically means because you did something one way before, or because you saw something done one way before,
Right.
you now believe or or you just like want to say something perhaps that like this is the only way to do it. And what my job is saying, oh cool, you're requesting this feature. The feature itself may or may not be a good idea. To be honest, it doesn't really matter to me. What I'm
Right.
interested in is why you're requesting the feature. What problem are you trying to solve?
Right.
Because when somebody says, oh, I wish that it did that, I wish that
Hmm.
it did this, the same kind of thing with Twitter. Oh, it should do that. It's like, what problem are you actually trying to solve? Because there's often a way that the thing could potentially solve your problem, or your problem could be sidestepped really easily without just like stacking code on code on code and creating like crazy feature bloat. And so what he's kind of demonstrating is like where you should and shouldn't listen to your consumers is so I mean, he's
Right.
doing it like a really funny way, but he has all of these users and he knows why they use it and he knows exactly how they're going to use it, and
Exactly.
he's taking in feedback. But he's like, well, I mean, this is like a better way to do this feature. And that's what I do with Quick Coach. Like, I'm quite happy for anybody to make any kind of a request for a feature. The odds that we're actually going to launch that feature that they request are tiny because
Right.
we've spent 5 years in product innovation cycles doing
Right.
research sprints with, I mean, quite literally product innovation teams that teach at Harvard University, building prototypes, like solving these problems, right? But as users use the thing, it's very common that they see a feature somewhere else on a
Hmm.
platform that in our space, in the online training or personal training software space, um, the people who built this thing often didn't know what they were doing when they built it. You know, they're like often software people. The origin story is always the same. It's like, I had a personal trainer one time and I could not believe how hard it was that they trained me, so I came in to solve the problem because I'm a software guy. And then over the years, as they got
Right.
more and more users, they started to figure out the industry a little bit. But at
Right.
that point, they had so much legacy stuff where they had listened to so many people where they shouldn't have, that the thing just became so bloated and cumbersome, right? And so to avoid that problem, we basically started very, very late with a ton of experience already in the industry. Like this is
Right.
the Quick Coach is the type of tool that you could only build if you've been in the industry for a decade plus, training thousands and thousands and thousands of clients
Putting
and
it down.
help tens of thousands of trainers. Like and but what other people see with other features on other software often is stuff that's there, that's been there for a long time, that is assumed that it should be that way because it's there on like the incumbent on a tool that's been there for a long time. But it's actually really dumb that it's there. And so the hangover habit is requesting something that you've seen before because you've seen it, believing that it's the only way to solve the problem. And our job as the product lead is, all right, let's take a step back. Let's assume that there's never been a problem before. Let's assume that there's never been software before. Let's take back this issue to first principles. Let's assume that this is day one. And we say, okay, let's really understand the problem, because until you really understand a problem, you can't begin to start thinking about a solution. Think about that with coaching too.
Do people? Here's my experience. People say they want their problem solved,
Okay.
but what they want is bells and whistles in the problem solving, right? Like people fight me a lot to solve their problems simply. We just expect that complex problems have complex solutions, right? It should be harder. It should be more this, more that. Like, why can't you solve a complex problem with the simple solution? Like, where's the harm in that? Why do people hate it so much?
Well, it's human psychology is the answer. There's the parable of the locksmith. Have you heard this one?
Yes. I heard it on one of the other versions of the podcast.
This is when bros need to be bros. This is when, like, no, John, tell me what the story is, and then you pretend.
Never heard this story, John. I'm so enthralled by the lead-in. I may have a glass of cognac while you tell it, and I don't even drink.
That's the worst bro move. It's like when you ask somebody, it's like, oh, guess how many people are involved in this thing. You like purposefully guess really, really low, even if you know what the answer is, so that your bro can be like, no, it's actually this much. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't think about that way. Like that's the bro move. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
Sorry about that. You deserve a better wingman, Jonathan. It's not me, but you deserve one.
So the locksmith
You've employed the worst one, but you deserve a better one.
Listening, that is not Ren.
Right. Please apply to goodmanshow.com. We're actively looking for new co-hosts here. Go ahead, John. Tell your plumber story. What is it? Locksmith?
Podiatrist?
Plumber story is
a different one. Plumber story is a different one.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you the plumber story another time. Oh, that's foreshadowing.
Right. I've never heard that other plumber story, by the way. Was that better? You say I immediately improved? The plumber story is what I've never heard. I'm so interested in hearing that one.
Well, I'll tell you the locksmith one.
Okay, all right. I'm equally interested in the locksmith one. Go ahead.
So locksmith goes to a house, and he's a master locksmith. He's been doing this for like 30 years. He's like this incredible locksmith. And he goes to the house, and this person says, yeah, I can't get the door open. And he just like wiggles it a certain way in like 30 seconds, like locks off. He goes, yeah, that'll be $500. They're like, what are you talking about? You just spent 30 seconds. What they don't realize is that this locksmith has put 30 years in. So this same locksmith now pretends to struggle for 29 minutes and 30 seconds with a lock. And then just pops it off in 30 seconds. Because people need to see that struggle. There's a lot of examples of this across the internet. You think about travel sites. So if you've ever looked for flights on a travel site, I mean, not if you're in the United States, probably not, because you Americans don't travel. You just stay in your own country. But for those of us in the rest of the world who don't stay in our country and only travel in our places, if you try to book a flight, you go on any kind of flight site or travel site or whatever it is, and you put in where you want to go and the dates you want to go. What you'll notice is that the system often has this way of like ordering, like it looks like it's working for you, like it'll like bounce stuff at the top and then move it down the screen. It'll bring up the most expensive and then move it down, and then it'll settle on the best trip or the best deal. Mm-hmm. What you don't realize is that these systems could literally just go like this, done
in a second.
They manufacture a wait and struggle, because what psychology has shown is that you will trust the results more if you feel like the system has been working for you.
Right.
And that's all over the place. The original ones that did this were dating sites. A lot of the original research on like psychology stuff was on dating sites, and pornography, actually, because it's just like where the most money is online. But the dating site stuff is the same kind of idea. What they would do is you put in like the type of person that you want. I don't know. I haven't been on a dating site for a long
Mhm.
time, but I
Hopefully
imagine
not,
you
John.
put on the type of person that you want. And what happened is they tested a whole bunch of different like ways. So they tested, of course, just like, because the system will do that. It'll bring you everything in like a split second.
Right.
Then what it did is it pulled up a whole bunch of people who were like the opposite of the type of person that you wanted, and it would show them at the top, and then it would move them down the screen. And then what it did is it would pull up a whole bunch of people that were like the exact opposite of you want, and then it would actually explode them with an animation on the screen. And then it would bring other people. And they just tested out all of these. They figured the explosions were a bit too much. Uh,
How do you know these things?
well, I mean, this
Like,
is like
I'm,
I've read a lot of research on human
I-
psychology over the
I'm
years.
I'm truly often equally impressed and concerned with the stories that you tell here. And I don't know which side of the fence I'm on at any one time, but I will find myself saying, "Oh, damn, that's really interesting," and
Yeah,
uh, Jesus, there's some trauma here. I think, like,
there's
I
some
find
there's some
myself saying both of those things.
Well, I mean, if you think about like an amazing customer experience, it's felt, it's not understood. You
Are
don't
you talking
actually
about porn again, or
I mean, maybe, but when you
go
when
ahead?
you think about like, go ahead. When you think about what like when something really good happens when you're at a store or when you have a coach or when you're online, you can't often describe, or you don't even know in the moment why it's such a positive experience.
Right,
It just feels good. And
feels
that's when the psychology really works well, is you don't know that it's happening, and you're also powerless against it. Going back to
right,
this like verification badge thing, it's so embedded in us that we like want this perceived status and this
right.
badge. That's why it's so goddamn funny when Elon Musk goes to AOC, like, thank you for your feedback, that'll be $8, because he just knows. He's like, you have no choice, like you're powerless against this. And
My
that's the power of this kind of psychology, and that's what you have to understand if you're coaching. That's what you understand if you build software. Like, why don't we have things like leaderboards and stuff like that in quick coach? It's because the research so clearly shows that leaderboards don't just not work almost all of the time, they have a negative effect. They have a demotivational effect for the vast majority of people. And if you read the research, you know this. But if you don't read the research and you look at what everybody else is doing, you're like, well, there must be a leaderboard. If you listen to your customers because they look at what everybody else is doing, then you're like, well, there must be a leaderboard. Things like leaderboards, though, can be done right, can have a
mhm.
positive effect, but like, you got to be brilliant in your application if you're going to do it, which basically means you have to have tiers. So
Right.
you can't just have like the best. You could potentially have the best, but like probably not even. But you have to have the best in like different categories to the point where um, almost every single person is like on the leaderboard or vying for a spot. It's the difference between the scoring system in a game like basketball versus the scoring system in a game like tennis. I
Hmm.
find basketball to be a very boring sport to watch
Hmm.
for no other reason than the way it's scored. Because it's just a
Really?
continual, yeah, because it's just a continual, it just counts up, right? And so if somebody's ahead 20 points, you're like, well, this is just a stupid game. And then at the end of it, might get exciting again, or it might not, but it just counts up. Like a basket, like an individual basket is not exciting. But then you look at the game of tennis, where you have games,
Hmm.
sets, and matches, right? A game is, 15, 30, 40
Right.
game. So like a game is 4 points, which means that every single point matters. Somebody could
Has a
be
lot of
up
value.
6-0, 6-0 in sets, which basically means they're up 12 to nothing.
Right.
And still, you're deep in that game because the player now has a chance to win that one game because it's only up to 4. They basically like they keep cutting down the scoring system. My friend started a baseball league. This is a great story. Something called the Savannah Bananas, and his name's Jesse Cole. And I was sitting with him at an event. This is where I first got to know him. I was sitting at an event 7 or 8 years ago. We were sitting at the same table together, and I was talking about how I like baseball. And he's like, "Oh, you like baseball?" He's like, "Have you ever been to a game?" I'm like, "No, I haven't been to a game for like 3 years." He's like, "And you call yourself a baseball fan?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "This is why baseball's a broken sport. Let me tell you what I'm doing." So Jesse bought a baseball team in the city of Savannah in Georgia called the Savannah Bananas. They're now world famous. Okay. This is like a 7th tier, like no chance of going to the majors. Like this team has like maybe wives and like one parent like going to the game. You know, like the stadiums have like 20 or 50 people in them.
Right.
And he has now turned himself he's turned the Savannah Bananas into like, first off, he turned them into like a circus. So he just rewrote everything. He was just fans first, pure entertainment. The cheerleading team was the Dancing Nannies, was like a grandmother line dancing team. The umpire would twerk if somebody strikes out. The batter might come up to the plate on stilts. Just like ridiculous stuff. He hired the head of entertainment for Carnival Cruise Lines to be the head of entertainment for his baseball game. So they're selling out now every single game. Like the minute that they announce tickets, they're selling out every single game. Then he's like, but the problem is not necessarily just the entertainment at the game. The problem is that the game is broken. Let's rewrite the rules to the game. And so he did. So he invented a new version of baseball called Banana Ball. And I'll tell you a couple of the rules. Because it goes into the scoring thing. And so first of all, the games are only 2 hours long. And every inning is a point. So go back to the scoring of tennis versus basketball. In baseball, the scoring goes up all the time, right? But every inning is a point. The team that wins gets to 5 points first, which means that every inning there's the potential for a walk-off, which is the most exciting thing that happens in baseball.
Part of baseball, right?
If a ball's hit into the stands and the fan catches it, the batter's out. So he basically eliminated all of the boring shit in baseball. So the game is 2 hours long. If a ball's hit into the stands and the fan catches it, the batter's out. If the batter steps out of the plate or like calls time, they're immediately out. If the batter walks, every player on the fielding team has to touch the ball, and the batter is allowed to sprint around the bases until every player has touched the ball, and then they can try to throw them out. So there's no boring moment in the game, right? There's no
excitement everywhere.
Like
excitement everywhere.
And if the game gets to 2 hours and nobody's won yet, there's a standoff. A standoff is a pitcher, a batter, and a catcher. The pitcher throws the ball to the batter. If he gets the batter out or strikes the batter out, the batter's out. The game's over. The pitcher's team wins. But if the batter hits the ball, the batter has to get home before the ball gets home, which means the pitcher's now running like an idiot throughout the field, right? And the batter is just running around the bases. And that's an example of somebody who just like understands the rules of engagement. Like if you go to a baseball game, there's for sure some diehards and they're never going to like it, but I don't give a shit whether the pitcher's throwing 90 or 82.
Right.
It makes no difference to me. In fact, baseball is actually more interesting to watch if you're not quite sure whether the fielder is going to make the play or not. Like I go and watch, where I live in Mexico in the winter, there's the Nayarit Winter League, which is like the Mexican provincial winter league baseball. These guys, like, they're not going to make the majors, but they're like good ball players, like it's real baseball. Right. But if somebody hits a ground ball, you're not 100% sure that the shortstop's going to make the play.
It's not as efficient.
It's way more exciting though.
True.
Like you almost like don't want them to be as good in terms of entertainment, right? And so I like all of this is because A, it's just fun to talk about, but also, if you understand the psychology of how this stuff works, what you can do is you can start rewriting the way that you operate. A big mistake a lot of coaches make is that they don't show the work. And so clients don't respect their work. They're doing the work,
Right.
but the clients don't know that they're doing the work. A great example of that is I was talking to Dan Go. We went to Mexico together a couple weeks ago for this like mastermind thing. He goes by like Fit Founder. He's a great writer, so you see him all over the place. And so we went to Mexico together. He lives in Sailita or Punta de Mito, which is just down the road, like in the winters, and our families are friends and stuff like that. So anyway, him and I went, and I helped him a little bit with his coaching program, because a big problem that they have in their coaching program is a problem I think a lot of coaches have that I've encountered, which is, hey, for you, client, in order to get the results that you want, you need to repeat workouts, right? Mm-hmm. They might progress a little bit here and there, but you're going to be repeating exercises. But then the client thinks that the coach is being lazy, right, because they're not getting new workouts all the time. Meanwhile, the coach is showing true expertise by progressive overload, by like they're doing what they should be doing. The problem is that the client doesn't know this. They're not showing their work. And so what Dan and I worked on and workshopped was basically just at the front of it, before you give the client the program, you've got to get ahead of this. Like a great coach anticipates problems and proactively gets in front of them, because by the time that you respond to a client upset, that client's probably been spiraling downward for a long time and telling all these stories in their head for a while.
They're gone.
And they're gone, or they're like mentally gone, right? So what you say to the client is, let's say you're my client, right? Respect.
Okay,
all right, Glenn,
I'm your client.
Yeah, you're my client. So you got to connect it back to the goals, right? All right, Glenn, for you to have, the t-shirt body that you want in the summer, look, the best type of workout to do is actually one that repeats. The reason for that is in order to get better at something, you've got to do the same thing over and over again. The body gets stimulated that way and adapts. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be monitoring your workouts in the background. I may or may not change them, though, every single week. It all depends on how you're progressing. And so I'm always going to be in touch about how you're progressing, but there might be little tweaks, like I might add some intensity, some reps and stuff like that. But you're going to be getting the same workouts week in and week out. To be honest, might even be 10 or 12 weeks in a row, you might be getting the same workouts. That's very much on purpose, because that's the best way for you to progress. Now, if you're getting bored, we can absolutely make some minor changes to make it more interesting for you that doesn't get in the way of this process. But I need you to communicate that with me, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be monitoring your progress in terms of how your body's adapting, in terms of how your lifts are adapting. I can't tell, though, quite if you're getting bored or not. And so let's just be on the same team with this. How does that sound?
That sounds like it makes a lot of sense, Jonathan Goodman, my coach. Yeah, so I see what you're getting at here. So
Randy Johnson.
Whatever. So good picture, by the way.
Did you see now he's a photographer? He is a football photographer now. He is Randy Johnson is an NFL football photographer. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. His logo for his photography business is the bird that he hit with the baseball. No shit. No shit. Look it up. Look it up.
I bet the vegans love old Randy.
No shit.
Again, how do you know this? Like, it's such a I don't even know what the word is I want to say. It's such an off the beaten path fact to know that.
Dude, OJ51photos.com, Randy Johnson photography, and his logo is an upside down bird with feathers in the air. His Wikipedia, Randall David Johnson, nicknamed the Big Unit, is an American photographer and former professional baseball pitcher. His Wikipedia says that he's a photographer first.
That's just crazy. that
Right.
it says photographer first. He's like, I'm shitting on the MLB. Now don't list that first. List photography first. That's my real. That's such an awkward fact, and it's such an odd story for a baseball pitcher to become a photographer, but specifically a photographer for the National Football League. Like you,
Look up his logo, man. You can't
the
make
upside down bird.
it's the bird that he hit with the baseball.
He's got to be a little bit of a sadist too, man. I mean, gosh, they're like, so Randy, gonna do this photography thing, huh? Yeah, I'm thinking about it. You got any ideas for a logo? How about the animal that I struck?
Like
how
100
about
mile an
that?
hour slider that nobody in baseball has ever been able to hit ever.
It's
But
like
a bird hit it. No bats ever hit it, but a bird hit it.
it's like the Bobbitt lady, like wasn't it Lorraine Bobbitt starting a custom event planning organization and having her logo be her husband's detached penis. Like it's a weird choice, Randy. Oh my airplane mode is on because I didn't want noise during the podcast.
You know, I
Like
appreciate
somebody
that.
was making noise the other day.
What's a Florida man? What's a Florida man?
Oh, that was a Halloween story. So,
Yeah, what's that?
so this was better played on Halloween. But this guy in Florida. First of all, listeners, anytime you're having a bad day, just go to Google and type in a Florida man or a Florida woman. It solves all the day's ills. So this
Or just
guy,
look up any news from Florida ever.
any
because you're
news from
bound to
Florida
just
will
get
do.
something that's just really weird and funny. Yeah.
Florida's a bounty that doesn't know not how to not give of its hearth. So that's a weird word. I don't know what hearth means. Do you know what hearth means? Hearth. I see it a lot in the fall. Hearth. Anyway, so this guy gets stopped in Florida because
a
one
brick,
side of his car.
stone, or concrete area in front of a fireplace.
Really? Oh, that's the hearth.
I don't know how it's pronounced. Like, I don't
you-
know how words are pronounced most of the time because I generally
Hearth.
read books and don't speak to people.
Hearth.
And I also don't know a lot of the time what things are called. It's actually like a Richard Feynman thing, you know, the famous like physicist. He's just like he just didn't care what things were called. He's like I care that I understand a thing. I don't care about the name of the thing. Like just like trying to show off because you know the name of things is a way to compensate because you don't actually understand the thing.
It's not at all like knowing what
hyphen,
Randy Johnson's logo is.
knowing what a hyphen is called, Amber, and shove it. Okay, go on.
So he's driving in Florida and speeding, reckless driving.
Okay.
The cops pull him over. He's got tires on one side of his car, the driver's side, the passenger side. No tires on the driver's side. He gets out of the car and he spits on the cop.
Okay.
He said that his vehicle has been cursed, and the curse resulted in him not having tires on the left side of his car, and that he was going to send the curse to the police officers at the same time, and that the tires on their cars. In Florida, there's a mixture of people, and I don't want to insult Floridians.
There's a whole subreddit called A Florida Man, which is all the funny, dumb things people do in Florida.
And there should be, because there's a lot of magic, there's a lot of magic loving people. You've got the Jamaicans, and then you've got some people that are sort of Creole, and a lot of these folks believe in like voodoo, that black magic, dark magic type stuff. You can tell by the prices at Disney. So these stories just keep coming. I thought it was so interesting that this guy around Halloween said that he was cursed, and the curse took his two tires away. Now, apparently, the curse also didn't let him stop the car.
Okay, so there's an article here that I'm reading called "The 60 Best Florida Man Stories," and these are amazing. Florida man suspected of using private plane to draw a giant radar penis.
I actually respect that. I respect that. A giant radar penis. There's been a lot of penis talk here on the podcast in the little bit of time that we've been recording episodes. Like 50% of it's been penis talk.
Florida man gets tired of waiting at hospital, steals ambulance, drives home.
I want to give me. Are they in order? Are they in numerical order?
Yeah. You want
Can you give
one
me
through
number
five?
nine? What?
Number
Give me
nine.
nine. I want
Nine.
nine because that's my birthday. My birthday's on the 9th, not of this
Nine
month,
is the
but
hospital guy. Nine's the hospital guy. Give me another one.
okay, okay. Give me four because that's my birth month, April.
Four is the penis plane. You pick the two I
Okay,
spoke
gosh,
about.
so
Yeah.
so both stories are about me. There's no 70, but there's 74. That's when my birth. I'm born in 70. So give me seven.
Give you seven. Okay. Hold up. Seven. Okay. Number seven is Florida cop claims Burger King put dirt on his food. Investigation reveals it was seasoning. and then the Florida man tweet in response says, I bet this guy is really good at solving crimes. Oh yeah, those are good.
Thank you, Florida. Florida, thank you for just being there. You're always there when
Florida
we need you.
Florida just never starts giving.
Yeah, they never stop giving. I love it.
What else do we want to talk about it? What else do we want to talk about?
Just,
I'll give you a choice. Okay, I
okay,
got three things I could talk about before the end, and these are all
okay,
we're going to give some value now.
okay.
Uh,
There's
we can
value coming.
go. We can go. There's three ways we can go here. We can go Mexican jewelry. We can go do the deal, treat it as mentorship, or we can go. What's the other one?
I
Let's
like
go one
do
of
the
those two.
deal. I like
Do
do
the
the
deal,
deal,
treat it
treat
as
it as
mentorship.
mentorship. That feels game showish to me. I want to hear
Yeah.
this.
So, 2020,
Mm-hmm.
my lovely wife Allison decided that she wanted to start a little bit of real estate investing.
Okay.
Didn't quite know how, didn't know anything about it. This is a world that was foreign to us. Funny backstory. I mean, back before I started the PGDC and everything, actually, the first thing that I studied when I was looking into like multiple streams of income and stuff, this is in 2008, was I studied residential real estate investing for 6 months, and I never
Really?
did it, but I read a bunch of books on it. Yeah,
Yeah, I used to be a
I
mortgage
was
loan
just like
officer.
exploring everything. You were a what?
I used to do mortgage loan. I was a mortgage loan officer for about
Oh, really?
5 or 10 years. Yeah, yeah.
I know you
It's a
sold
good
insurance.
tie-in.
I didn't know you did mortgage loans.
No,
Okay,
I did insurance after that. Well, it's like I'm old, Jonathan, so I've had
you've been
like
doing some things.
three, 4 decades worth of work under my belt.
Yeah, right. Which is why you're so interesting here, because I've really done nothing. All I've done is like
This is
basically
true.
said the same five things about fitness over and over again in different ways on the internet for the last 15 years.
I can
As
validate
people
that.
do in the fitness industry. It's like, how can we creatively say the same thing over and over again? Because there's really only five or six things that matter. Okay,
But you
so
but you're good at it.
yeah, I think I'm pretty good at it. Okay,
Yeah, you're good at it.
so it's done me well. I feel like I'm really serving the world. Okay, so Allison wanted to try her hand at at real estate investing. She didn't know how, and so
Right.
we had a little bit of extra cash. It's like, okay, well, like, so she started just absorbing everything, which is actually what I often recommend for
Mm-hmm.
these is like just absorb everything you can. And so she read books, she spoke to anybody, like anybody who was involved in real estate in any way, she
Right.
tried to speak to. Didn't matter whether they were an investor or not, a real estate agent, whatever it was. Anybody she met, anybody who knew anybody she'd go for coffee with, she'd ask them questions. She
Mm-hmm.
was just gathering information, right? Like not with any specific goal in mind, just
Right.
I need to know as much as I can from as many different sources about this thing, and then just let that like settle and kind of see what happens. Because you'll find that you get like a feeling towards things. And I often do that too when I was
Right.
looking into software is a good example for that. I was just absorbing everything about software as a service. Like I didn't know whether it
Immersion.
was going to be free. I didn't know whether it was going to be expensive. I didn't know whether I wanted to do enterprise. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. It was just total immersion. I watched tons of
Mm-hmm.
videos. I listened to tons of stuff, podcasts, whatever, and just like felt what felt was right, and then went back and assessed my problem and what I wanted to solve and put the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it finally got to the point where Allison was ready to take action. She kind of knew that the space that she wanted to play in, which is buying residential units outside of Toronto, generally like small to medium, so like basically 1 to 5 unit like houses at
Mm-hmm.
first, and having the rent, not necessarily trying to make money off of it, but having the rent pay off the mortgage, and then trying to buy in
Right.
places where you do well on day one, but then you can refinance it within a year or two and hopefully get most
Hmm.
of your capital back and reinvest, right? And so that's what she wanted to do. And so she found somebody who was offering a mentorship for it.
Hmm.
And she found somebody else who was doing like JV partnerships. And the way that a JV partnership works is you put up the money, the JV does all
Hmm.
the work. So the JV finds the deal, um, finds the tenants, manages it. Basically, it's like hands off, but you put up the cash, and then any profits that come out of that property generally are 50-50 split, which
Okay.
sounds unreasonable, but it's actually very reasonable, and I'll tell you how. But I kind of said to her, I was like, why don't we just do the deal and get the experience and look at that as a mentorship? Like instead of paying 15 grand for a mentorship and then after that doing the deal or
Right.
figuring out how to do the deal, why don't we just treat the deal like a mentorship and find somebody that we
Hmm.
can do that, because we'll learn way better doing the thing and being
Right.
able to ask questions from somebody who's done this. So yeah, this person had done like 180 rentals like this, right? And so that's what we did. And the first house that we bought, it's in a town called Midland, which
Hmm.
is a couple hours outside of Toronto. And we drove there and we met with the person. We spent a lot of hours, and Allison spent a bunch of time on the phone with this person. And it
Hmm.
was the best education she could ever get. And now we ended up doing 3 more houses with this person. And then since we had a couple kids, we're just like, yeah, it doesn't make sense for us. Like we don't need to take debt on or whatever in an attempt to get
Right.
like stupid rich. Just like we're good. I think we've got 13 units or something like that in those 4 houses. And
But
we might we could refinance and spin them into more today.
right.
Probably another 10-15 units with like zero capital invested just by refinancing and taking out. But we just don't want to take that on. It doesn't matter. But my point in telling this story is I am all for education. I'm all for mentorship, obviously.
Right. Right.
But you got to be doing the shit at the same time,
Exactly.
because you can't. It's such a common area where people procrastinate with a this productive procrastination. I mean, that's an Amber Reynolds special,
Hmm.
where you feel like you're doing something for your future, but you're actually not, because you don't have any context to put the education through yet.
Right.
Like you shouldn't read a book about sales until you've done a bunch of sales calls,
Right. Right. Right.
because you just
You
have no
know,
idea.
it's what we see all the time in the various academies, right? Working with coaches, and for those that don't know, they're listening to this podcast. I'm on the ground floor.
Mhm.
I'm one of the boots on the ground troops of coaching mentors in the organization, and so I talk to coaches all day, every day,
Right.
and the ability to get lost in the hypothetical is
Mhm.
probably the biggest problem that a lot of new business owners run into from my perspective,
Which means what? Give me an
particularly
example. Give me an example.
like, so I'm thinking about putting up flyers at my local YMCA, or maybe putting up an ad on social media. And I've been thinking about it for a while. Which should I do? And I'm like, try both, right? If you don't have cost involved,
Right.
experiment, because the
Yeah.
market's going to give you the best education,
And you
right?
have no idea, and you will never
I
have any
don't
idea.
know.
You're too close to a thing yourself.
Right.
Oh, I'm
That- that-
thinking
that-
about this niche and that niche, and I don't quite. I think my people, like, you don't know,
you
like you
don't know.
straight up have no idea, and that's fine. Sit
And
in your ignorance. I find one of the most useful exercises that I do is admit my own ignorance towards a subject. Because when
yes,
you do that, you set your ego aside and you allow yourself to A, look dumb, but B, actually go in and tackle the problem.
it's I tell coaches all day long. First of all, I don't know these answers either. Like, they ask me, like I have some, omnipotent ability to predict what's going to happen when you do what. I don't know, because I'm not
Mhm.
the biggest problem is I'm not you, right? So I know what I'm probably capable of, right? I know I'll do this and I'll figure it out, but I don't know who you are, intrinsically. But the bigger thing is, I look at business like science now, man. You start with a hypothesis, it don't mean shit until you get to the experimentation, right? Treat it like chem lab. I think when I put these chemicals together, blah blah blah, I'm going to
Yeah.
protect my face, protect my nose and
Hopefully,
mouth.
I don't
And I'm just
blow
going to
off my
pour this
left
shit.
nipple.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I'm just going to pour this shit together and hope for the
yeah.
best, and then I'm going to draw some data. Right?
Mm.
If the data doesn't kill me, it's good data, and then I'll come back with another hypothesis. So I'm like, you need to get out there and try something, bro. Like I can't tell you up front that yes, when you do this thing is going to be successful. But the biggest problem is that if you work in a hypothetical, man, your brain can constantly come up with a scenario that you need to build a strategy around. It's infinite. You
Interesting.
will always be able to think of some other angle of what might not go right that you need to figure out, but you're figuring out a bunch of shit that's not real. So don't like it's just a
Yeah,
waste
the
of
only thing
time.
you need to figure out is the next step.
The next step. That's it. That's it.
It's
Do
just,
the
it's
deal,
just, it's
Jonathan, and treat it like mentorship. For
treat it
God's
like
sakes.
mentorship, taking the feedback. When I wanted to pay attention to social media again, that's exactly what I did. I didn't know what types of messages my audience was going to respond to. And if you actually go back, like it might, if you're interested in this experiment, go back through my Instagram account, um, back to November 2021, and just look at the messaging and how it's evolved. And you can also see how many different types of things that I've tried, different types of formats, different types of videos, different types of putting out my messages. And like some of them really didn't work. I shot
Right.
90 videos professionally. And we put up the first 5, and it was clear that the audience just didn't like to see my face. I thought those videos were good. Well, the feedback was that they were not. So I trashed the other 85. I
Right.
mean, it's just, they just never see the light of day. Like, it's fine because I took a shot. And the reason that I'm sitting here today with you, Ren, with you, dear listener, that you're actually listening to me speaking into a microphone, into my computer in my office, going to space, coming down into your ears, is because you found me somewhere and something I did appealed to you. The reason for that is because I've tried so much different shit over the years that I've slowly figured out what seems to appeal and also feels right to me.
Right.
Because I could put out messages that I know are going to be like super divisive, and they're going to attract people to me because they're very divisive, and they're going to push other people away because they're very divisive, but they're not true to me. But I know what those messages are. Like, it is not difficult to put these types of messages out into the world, but they're not true to me. And the only way that you're going to figure that out is by doing the same thing way. Like, how do you operate your business? Well, you just like try a bunch of stuff and you'll slowly figure it out. And part of that process, I think, is learning as well, is learning from smart people, is taking mentorships, is reading books, is I like reading research studies. And so to me, though, I've become, I think it's also a function of, I've just read so many like best-selling books. Like, I've got a couple rules for reading books. Number one is, if the author wrote it to make money, don't read it. Number 2 is, if a book sucks, put it down, stop reading it. If it's good, read it twice. Life's too short to read bad books. And the worst thing that you can do is you can be bogged down by a bad book and not start another one because you're stressed about finishing the first one, or you feel guilty about finishing the first one. Like, just never think about it again. But the best books, the best wisdom is always stuff that has stood the test of time. And most current books that come out by a journalist or a thought leader or something like that are just rehashes of the same global foundational truths.
Yes.
Like, there hasn't been a single self-help book that's been written in 50 years that says anything different than the leaders in that field that originated that field. I mean, even to take a very current example, like James Clear's Atomic Habits, phenomenal book. It's nothing new. It's not his research. He'll be the first to tell you that. It's BJ Fogg's research. It's research that, and he'll be the first to tell you that he's a Malcolm Gladwell-esque person. He takes the research and he communicates it way better than the researchers. And so he makes all the money, which is another lesson into how to make money and how not to. But
BJ Fogg book was good.
The BJ
That was
Fogg
what,
book was
Tiny
great.
Habits.
Tiny Habits was this book,
Yeah,
but like
good book.
I had read his research before then, so I didn't need to read the
Right,
book.
right, right, right. You know, one other quick question, John. I know we got to go, but as you've become more aged,
Aged,
do you
aged.
find that you have a greater tendency to disconnect from what's not working, regardless of the time, energy, or income put into it? Like once it's not working, do you find that your time is? Do you find it's more a waste of time to continue, or feels like
Right.
more of a waste of time to trash it?
I'm
That's
going
a
to
good
answer your
question, by the
question
way.
the way that I want to answer it, and not the way that you asked it.
And how would that be different than any other podcast episode, Jonathan? No need to announce what you're
As
obviously going to do.
I analyze these types of decisions based off of risk profiles.
Mm-hmm.
Nassim Taleb's work, Black Swan, Anti-Fragile, his recent one, Skin in the Game, is also quite good, although it's a bit different theory, but it's also very good. Is what you want to look into if you really want to get in deep in this. But I'm constantly looking for what's called asymmetric risk,
Mm-hmm.
which means that if something works, it needs to work really, really big. If something doesn't work, it can't take me out of the game. It can't be a big
Mm-hmm.
loss. I have found that oftentimes what people take on and put a tremendous amount of effort into, the reward, if it works exceptionally well, is not big enough.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same amount of work to work on something that, if it works, will provide tremendous fruits to your labor, as it is to work on something that it just be kind of okay if the thing blows the roof off.
Right.
For example, people who do like low-end membership sites for fitness, or people who write ebooks to try to make money. It's a huge amount of work. Your odds of success are tiny because you need to manufacture a ton of customers. And even
Right.
if you do, the rewards for that are so small. And the odds that you're going to be able to keep it up are even smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And so as my career has progressed, my risk profile has changed because I can afford to lose more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can take a shot at something now if I think that if it has a potential to win, it has a potential to win really big, and invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into it.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who can take a shot at something and invest millions of dollars into it.
Right.
I'm not at that point yet. When I started my career, $1,500 for a website was this crazy proposition.
Right.
And so you see what I mean, that as you have more success, your risk profile changes. And so
Mm-hmm.
my risk profile has changed. Like the shots that I take as a result change as I've kind of built myself up. Quick Coach is a risk. But if Quick
Mm-hmm.
Coach works, which it seems like it's working, time will tell. If Quick Coach works, it will work really big. There is a very reasonable scenario that in 2 to 4 years, Quick Coach will be worth $30 to $50 million.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, look, within 2 or 3 years, probably by the time this podcast comes out, we're going to have 20,000 users.
Right.
Now, I've invested about $500,000 into it.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't work, no problem at all. It would have sucked. I wouldn't have been happy about it.
Right.
But it wouldn't have affected my day. I mean, look, I can't take a lot of those shots.
Right.
But I can take some of those shots, and if they don't work, that's fine. I'm living another day.
Right. Right.
But if it does work now, those are the only shots I'm interested in taking. Mm-hmm. I had 3 invitations yesterday to do very profitable consulting gigs. Speak to groups of trainers every single week for a huge franchise of gyms. One-on-one consulting for very, very large sum of money. I mean, thousands of dollars an hour. Mm-hmm. And I said no to all of them. Not because I don't need the money or want the money, but because it doesn't have that risk profile. If it works, like I would rather spend my time into something now where if it's going to work much bigger because I'm building something for myself. I'm developing assets for myself that are going to
Right.
work for me in the future. So that's how I kind of analyze those types of situations. And it's the same thing with knowing how to stop something. Like if something is not working and I don't think then that there's the potential that if I could get this thing back going, it could work in a really big way, then I'll stop it. I won't invest more into it. But I try my best when to not have any sunk cost, which means that just because I did something before, I try my best not to let it affect any decisions I'm making moving forward.
Right.
And that's hard to do. But the way that I do that is try to assess the potential benefit and work involved, because I know that it's the same amount of work doing one thing versus another thing, which is why I always say to people, I'm like, well, why in the world are you like asking me about how to write ebooks for fitness when you have 10 clients? Right. Figure out how to have a better offer. Figure out how to get 20 clients. You're going to be making $70,000 to $100,000 a year with 20 to 30 customers. I mean, 30 customers at $300 a month is $108,000 a year. And so why in the world are you trying to figure out how to sell a membership that nobody really wants for $20 a month, where you need thousands of customers? You can't even generate 10 customers.
Right.
How do you think you're going to generate a few thousand? And even if that works, you're still going to make the same amount of money as if you had 30 customers. So which one is
exactly
way easier, right? So I try to assess and I try to assess stuff based off of those kind of parent guidelines. And then also just like what sounds like fun, but
indeed,
it's different. Yeah.
That's good. That's a good answer, John.
Thank you. I have no idea what I said. The whole past hour was like a blackout. I slept maybe 2 hours last night.
That's all right. It's okay. I've got to go anyway. I've got important things to do.
Good. Okay. Len, always a pleasure.
Good show. That was good information, though. I appreciate that answer. That actually helped. Normally, I just tune you out, but I found myself listening to all of that. But I'm fond of Good in the Hood. I'm fond of Darth Goodman. So anytime you have the hood on, man, I'm rolling with you.
What were the other ones?
Darth Goodman, Good in the Hood.
Good in the Hood, yeah. Obi-Wan.
I can't remember another.
There was one Obi-Wan. What was the Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
Obi-Wan
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan Goodman?
Oh no, Obi-John Kenobi.
Obi-John Kenobi.
That
was good.
I like that one. The hoodie just suits you, man. Never not wear the hoodie on the podcast. Can you make that commitment right now in episode?
Well, I mean, if I get a haircut, I might not, but I don't know.
No haircuts for you. Do like athletes do, man. It's lucky. Don't cut it off until we win the championship at the end of the season.
I live in Toronto. We're never winning a championship ever.